Thank you for tuning in to the Island Treasures podcast. We value the insights shared by our guests and host, but it's important to note that their personal experiences are intended to inform and encourage, and not to replace professional, legal, or medical advice. With that, we are ready for today's exciting episode. Welcome to Island Treasures, a place for caregivers to hear encouragement from other caregivers, who by sharing their experiences offer helpful information and resources for your caregiving journey. This podcast is brought to you by Alongside Caregiver Consulting, and I am your host and caregiver consultant, Alison Van Schie from beautiful Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. Before I introduce today's guest, I just want to remind you that if you'd like to contact the podcast, there's a link in the show notes that provides the opportunity to do just that. So if you have a question or a comment, just click this link and listen to future episodes to hear an answer or a response to your message. Now, my guest today has a rich background in music, and she's now a music therapist. She was first introduced to caregiving during her studies and to dementia through her grandmother's Alzheimer's diagnosis. In her work, she blends her music therapy skills, her personal experience with dementia, and her affection for older adults to offer a unique and engaging approach to those she serves. Let's hear more how she uses music as a bridge. So join me now as I welcome Alexis Baker. Welcome, Alexis. It's wonderful to have you as a guest on the Island Treasures podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much, Allison. This is such a pleasure and honor.
I agree. It's wonderful to meet you. And I love that you do music therapy because I haven't had a music therapist on the show before. And I'm really excited about the angle you're going to present regarding caregiving and music and dementia. So let's get started with your caregiving interest.
All right. Yeah, well, I did want to say us music therapists are far and few between. So I'm happy to be a guest on your podcast as your first music therapist.
Yay!
Yeah, so my caregiving interest began when I was in college. I was a paid caregiver. And I was in school to become a music therapist, and that was my job throughout school. I was with one family the whole time, and it was for an awesome teenage guy with autism. He had pretty severe autism. And yeah, about 3.5 years I was with them. So I've got some paid caregiving experience. And then I also more recently have some personal caregiving experience with my husband. It was a short stint, but he just a couple months ago had a really nasty infection in his knee, and he was completely dependent on me to do everything for him as his body was fighting this infection, and then as he was subsequently recovering from it. So I feel like having gone through that now, I can empathize more with caregivers. So I wouldn't say I have a ton of personal caregiving experience, but I have interacted with caregivers throughout the past 10, 15 years in my work.
That's awesome. You've got a well-rounded take on caregiving, a little bit of hands-on personal and paid caregiving, and also the work you do with your clients. And I don't know, do you call them clients?
We do, yes, we do in music therapy.
Okay, so that's well-rounded and gives you a great standing for what you're going to talk about today.
Yes.
So with the music therapy, what got you interested in pursuing music therapy, particularly as it relates to folks with dementia?
Yeah. So it's kind of two parts, but coincidentally, both happened around the same time in my life. I was 16, about halfway through high school, when I first heard about music therapy. I overheard a classmate mentioned that she was hoping to go into music therapy. I was taking a music theory course and just chatting with some people, and I was like, music therapy? I've never heard of that. What is that? It sounds like it could be a good fit for me. Because I had always been interested in music and loved music. I grew up in a family where all of my siblings and I played music. We had a family band for about a year and a half period of time. So just from a young age, growing up playing instruments, piano lessons at 8, guitar lessons at 10, learning to sing more, use my voice more in high school. I've been a part of choirs. So just music has been intertwined throughout my life. And I knew I also wanted to do something that involved helping people. So I thought about nursing, and I think I could have gone the nursing route if I could handle, bodily fluids, the smells, the sight of blood, all of that, but I can't.
Yeah, I get that. I
So
understand.
that was quickly out. And then I thought, oh, maybe counseling or psychology, that's a helping profession. And I could see myself doing that. But then I was like, wait, I really want to do something with music. But I also didn't want to go the traditional routes of music education or music performance, because I don't consider myself a performer. So yes, I learned about music therapy. I also stumbled across an article on it at that time and began looking into it on my own, researching what it is, how to become a music therapist, and then the specific path to take. And then my first introduction to dementia was with my grandmother, who had Alzheimer's disease. I don't remember the exact time she was diagnosed, but she ended up passing away um, at the time I was 16. And I just remember going out to visit her. We didn't see her that often because she lived on the East Coast, we lived on the West Coast. But going out to visit her, and remember thinking, man, this is a really sad disease. Like, it's really changing who she is, and she doesn't even remember me as her grandchild. And um, yeah, so that really stuck with me, and she was really my first introduction to dementia, and I've always kind of been intrigued with it and always loved older adults.
Mhm.
So it just made sense to put all of that together: music
Mm.
therapy, dementia, older adults.
Wonderful. I totally get the nursing thing. I too, well, I did take nursing for one semester, and it's like, no, can't do this. This is not me. But yet it's really important. And it was a really good learning time for me. You know, you learn anatomy, physiology, and that stays with you. So hats off to all the nurses out there, because they do deal with bodily fluids and functions that we shied away from, didn't we, Alexis?
Absolutely. Nurses are amazing
Yeah.
individuals. And one of my first, so music therapy can also be used in the hospital setting. And one of my first practicum sites as a brand new, wide-eyed music therapy student was in a hospital on an oncology unit.
Mm.
And my supervisor was providing music therapy to a woman receiving chemotherapy. It was like happening right there in front of me. And I was like, what am I walking into? Like, I started getting queasy and lightheaded, and I had to step out of the room. And I knew very early on, like, the hospital setting isn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah. But you were still serving the folks that were in the hospital, you know, with a different approach with the music.
Right.
So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your family band. Like, that just struck a note with me.
Yes, that was a very fun time of my life. It was, I would say, a short season, but I grew up serving on the worship team at our church and just various capacities. But we all played a different instrument, my siblings and I. So my sister was writing songs at the time, like original songs, while she was in early college.
Mm.
And my brother played piano. My other brother played drums. I played guitar, bass guitar, a mix of instruments, and sang backup vocals. And then my sister was kind of the band leader with singing her songs and playing guitar. And we just all came together, and all of our instruments complemented each other, and there's nothing like sibling harmonies vocally. We never became big or anything. We would just perform locally in coffee shops and things like that. But it was a great experience, and I learned a lot in that time that I don't necessarily like being the spotlight. I enjoy playing more of a supportive role.
I get that, but thank you for being in the spotlight on the Island Treasures podcast today. I
Oh,
really appreciate that.
of course. Well, I love talking about things I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm. So you recently contributed as one of the authors to the Caregivers Advocate book that Debbie Compton drew authors together. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the chapter that you wrote?
Yes, absolutely. So, fun story, real quick. Debbie and I connected on LinkedIn, which is a wonderful place to meet people. And it was such a thing of providence that we came together. And she invited me into this collaborative book project, which is a guidebook of sorts, a book full of support and resources for caregivers called The Caregivers Advocate. And 21 chapters, 21 authors. We each contributed one chapter. And I wrote a chapter on incorporating music into the day-to-day of dementia caregiving. It's all about sparking joy and creating connections through music and using music as a support system in a sense. Really using music as a go-to tool. Um, it can be great for redirection with challenging behaviors. It can be great for transitions throughout the day. And then it can be great as the main focal point of an activity, like really just focusing on the music in and of itself, whether that's um, just listening to a song, and then if it leads to some reminiscence, just kind of sitting in that space. So I offer 7 very practical ways to use music: listening, playing, singing, recording music, and a few other ways, and just really like practical tips of the how to, because a lot of people can be intimidated, especially if they don't consider themselves a musician. If they do consider themselves a musician, then maybe they're more comfortable with it. But if you're not, then it can be a little intimidating. Like, where do I start? What do I do? How, like, I don't even know. So just putting some practical tips in their hands.
Yeah, and I think in your chapter you mentioned that there's music in everybody. Even
Yes.
those who don't recognize it, there's music in them. And I remember Teepa Snow saying to me, like, she was talking about the importance of rhythm. And I said, I don't have rhythm. Like when it comes to dance, I can't dance. Like, and I also read, your chapter about dance. Just move. It doesn't have to be anything formal. But Teepa Snow said that there was rhythm in my voice. And
Mhm.
in your chapter, you said, like, even the breathing in, the breathing out, and the breathing in, like there's rhythm. And so could you talk a little bit more about that? The
Yes,
music that's in each of us.
I deeply believe that we are all musical in some way. And that's true because everybody's body has built-in rhythms. The rhythm of our breathing, the rhythm of our movement. Gait is a rhythm where each step can speed up and slow down. Even the rhythm of the blood pumping through our body. I mean, if that rhythm wasn't happening, there wouldn't be life. So each person is rhythmic, and we all have a voice. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. Not everyone has a physical voice,
Mm.
but we all bring a voice in some way to music. And yeah, music can really draw us in and draw us out and connect us to each other. And it's a beautiful thing, and we don't always recognize it.
Yeah.
But I really strive to equip and empower caregivers to and just bring more music into the caregiving.
Well, it is uplifting, or it can be uplifting.
Yep. And yeah, it can really help make each day better and smooth over difficulties and things like that.
Well, in a way, the music is like the pulse. Like you can add background music. And I'm trying to create a few videos and there's the voiceover, but then if you add a music track, it just fills in a little bit more. There's a little depth that makes it richer. And I think the music that you're applying day to day for caregivers makes it that little bit richer. And it also, like you said, can be distracting and redirecting, but it can also be a tool, right?
Yes.
To link people to a time that meant a lot to them when they're no longer able to be in the present reality for the majority of us, but they still have a connection to a reality for them.
Right, especially with dementia where it can rob people of their memories, music can be that connection, that bridge that helps unlock those memories. They're still there, but it acts as like a trigger. And that's happening at like a physiological level with the synapses and neurons, all those neural touch points in the brain. It's truly amazing.
And technical.
Yes, I don't know all the technical part of it.
You're making me think you do.
I know a few fancy words.
Well, no, that's awesome. And I think you also mentioned in the book that music touches or activates each part of the brain. So
Yes,
that just goes along with what you're saying.
yes, it does. It's one of the few things that when scientists and researchers have done studies on music and with using MRI technology to take a look at the brain and what's happening in it and what areas of the brain are lighting up with music. And they've seen that it's like, oh, it lights up this area and this area. And that's because of all the different elements music incorporates. It touches the right brain and the left brain, and then the speech area and the motor cortex and all these different areas of the brain that are all connected, but some things only touch one point, and music can light up all areas of the brain.
I like that.
Yeah.
You describe it very well. I'm picturing all the lights going on. It's very
Yeah,
good.
that's a fun mental picture.
Mm, yeah. I also like that you talked about discussing music or discussing a song. So if someone does come to you and is adamant that they're not musical in any way, they can still engage with a music task or a music activity. I really like that. It's
Right.
clever.
And if they don't consider themselves musical, they can take more of a receptive role on. They can listen and they can talk about it. And yeah, we call that lyric analysis or discussion on a basic level, is just what does the song make you think of? What does this particular sound make you think of? What instruments do you hear? What do you think about this line in the song? Does that make you think of anything you've been through in your life? So you can go all sorts of directions with music.
Yeah, I like that too. Reflective,
Yeah,
reflective on the music. And then,
reflection.
of course, how it makes you feel.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So tell me a little bit about how things changed through the pandemic with you, because I understand you were just starting out as a music therapist and then you had to shift. So share a little bit about that.
Yes. So I became board certified as a music therapist in 2013, and I worked for a few years with a local music therapy agency. And then I, at that point, was working with a wide variety of populations and ages and was just feeling pretty spread thin, trying to serve all these different types of people and diagnoses. And it was a lot musically to cover. But I had started to think about if I wanted to specialize in a particular age or population. And I have always loved working with kids and older adults. And I was leaning more towards older adults because there were just more opportunities for me. So I went in that direction and I left that music therapy agency. And in 2016, I started my company, Bridgetown Music Therapy. And so all of this time, I had been a traveling music therapist. I continued that model of work where I was driving around to all of my clients, and it was a lot of driving, but well worth it because, especially with the senior population, it's tough for them to get out. So
Hmm.
it makes more sense to go to them. Um, I'm based in the Portland metro area, so all of my clients were spread throughout that area, care communities, group homes, individuals living at home, and a large percent of them were people living with dementia. So 2016 to 2020, I was doing that. And then COVID hit, as we all know. I was actually mid-session at a site and they sent me home because they had just gotten word from the governor that they needed to shut down basically. Other than the staff like running it, but any outside people needed to leave. And yeah, I got pulled aside and I was like, you won't be able to continue.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. We have to send you home.
yeah. And you were like right in the middle of a song, I bet.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was pretty intense. Um, yeah, I've never been sent home mid-session.
No bad behavior.
Yeah. But it wasn't me.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was way bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, and we all thought like, "Oh, this will blow over in a couple weeks, like, we just gotta get through these next couple weeks." But yeah, in a span of about a week or 2, all of my clients canceled services. They're like, "We're so sorry, we just can't have you come in person." So I was like, "Well, if I can't come in person, can I provide some type of alternative service?" So for a few months, I tried that. And only with a small portion of my clients because everyone was just in over their head, like, especially in the senior living space. There were, obviously, with a population that was more at risk and all of the new policies and procedures they were needing to implement. Yeah, it was a lot all at once for everyone.
Yeah, it was uncharted territory. We had never been on this journey before.
Yes. So let's see, March, we were starting to head into better weather. So I provided some outdoor music therapy where I was sitting just outside the door window, clients inside, and
Hmm.
that only works for a few months out of the year here in the Pacific Northwest. I did some music therapy over Zoom and even over the phone where it was just the audio part, but my clients knew me and they were very happy to connect with because there was so much isolation at that time.
Hmm.
Everyone was just isolated. So any point of connection was welcomed. And especially with music therapy, it can be such a healthy distraction and just such an enriching activity that really uplifts the spirit. So I did what I could in that time. And then as the pandemic continued to drag on, I was like, what am I going to do long term? Like, these temporary solutions aren't really long-term solutions. So my husband, who is also my business partner, and I were talking, just bouncing around some ideas, and he happens to be a professional videographer, and he's like, "Well, what if I start filming you?" I was like,
You amazing. That is
"Yeah."
amazing. Yeah.
It was his idea. I hadn't ever really thought of that. So we decided to put our skills together and we filmed a few sessions. We call them pre-recorded sessions, and we weren't calling them music therapy because it's not formal music therapy in the sense that that would be live in the moment. And we had no idea what we were doing, but we launched an online program with 4 of these sessions, and we launched to my clients, and many of them signed up and began using it, and we started getting feedback, and we're like, "Oh, this is great. Like, people are loving it and using it." And so we just continued on with it, and that became the big pivot in my business. It's really taken on a life of its own, and I have fully embraced it as a new direction for my business. And here we are 3.5 years later, continuing to grow it. And we've improved it so much since then. It was really just bare bones when we initially launched it, but we continued creating this video content. We call them therapeutic music sessions, and I really use my music therapy background and experience and put it in video format as best as possible. So I like to say it's as close as you'll get to music therapy without being formal music therapy. And we've built up a video library of over 300 sessions, so it's really grown.
And so, are any of those sessions available for free for folks to watch?
Yes, we have several options. We have a YouTube channel where we have some samples on there. We have a sample session page on our website. We also offer a 14-day free trial to anyone.
Mm.
We also offer a continuing free resource, and that is a monthly live music session over Zoom. We offer 2 time options, but that's monthly. So they can tune into that and meet me and get an idea for how I operate, how I run things musically. Um, we just want people to be able to access it and see what it's all about, and then make the decision like if it's a good fit for them and their care setting. I know it's not the best fit for everyone, but it's a really solid alternative to music therapy. And I really do rely on my music therapy experience and background. And it's intentionally created for people living with dementia. We call it a dementia friendly program, and that can be very subtle within the program, but it has to do with the pacing, the structure, the intentional pauses, like really just being intentional in how I design it and how it's paced, and just really tailoring it to people with dementia.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm picturing, I don't know if you do this, but you probably do. So if a nursing home subscribed to the sessions, they could have the group activity, just have the residents sitting in the activity center with the big screen for them to participate. Is that something that homes do?
Yes, that's the idea. It's when they sign up as a member, they get full access to the library, which is accessible 24/7.
Mm.
So it kind of cuts out scheduling conflicts, the whole scheduling headache with like activity calendars, and they can pull it up as needed. It can be a group activity, it can be one-to-one. It's very versatile how it can be used, and it can be accessed from any web-enabled device. So we have people who use it on a tablet or laptop, but also connect it to a smart TV and then project it on a large screen for a group. Many of our members use it that way.
Mm.
And we have all kinds of themed sessions, all kinds of different genres, and then even length of session, because um and this comes down to a caregiver or an activity director knowing their individual or group best. They know what length of time would be best for their people, whether that's an hour or 30 minutes or just a few minutes. we have all of those options within it.
That's clever. So, what would an example of one of the themes be?
Oh man, we have a Hawaiian theme. We have um, just some really random fun ones like women's names, songs that are blue. That's a bunch of songs with the word blue in the title. We have time of the year, so holiday themes, seasonal themes. Um, I've been working on some more advanced themes like campfire tunes and then singer or band based, like doing a bunch of Elvis songs, Johnny Cash, and then continuing to move through the decades as well. Uh, we have decade themes, we have songs from A to Z. We just some like really fun. And one thing I really love is doing the session planning and putting together these fun themes. And then we also have ones that are just variety sessions where it's just kind of a mix and it's not one cohesive theme, but just you'll find a variety of music within it.
Oh, it sounds like fun. A
It's
lot
a
of
blast.
lot of preparation though. It's like planning menu planning.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
ever have requests like when the participants, or is it because it's recorded, it's not live? But do you ever have the opportunity for folks who are in attendance to make requests?
Yes, we have had requests and I take them seriously. We um that is something I want to work on more, but um it also takes time to learn new to me music.
Oh, for sure.
But we had one member who requested Hanukkah songs, and I learned 5 or 6 Hanukkah tunes and put together that as a session. We just added some songs in Spanish. Um, yeah, it's really fun to hear from our members and hear what they would like to see added, and then be able to respond to that and create it for them.
And through that, you're growing. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, do you speak Spanish? Was that new to
I
you?
I don't, but I have learned to sing in several other languages. And it
Wow.
it is quite different from speaking. There's something about language through song that is different. And I don't know if you've ever noticed that someone with a like a UK accent or an Australian accent, you can't always pick up on the accent if they're singing. And kind of similar with other languages, like I'm not a Spanish speaker, but I feel like I can pull off singing in it pretty well.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's just something about music with other languages.
And that's really good for your brain health.
Oh, yes, it definitely gives me a brain workout.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love this. I think music therapy sounds fantastic. I can't see anything wrong with engaging the services of a music therapist other than the cost. Now, is the cost prohibitive? I know
Yeah.
you've got some free resources, but for a generic music therapist, what
Mhm.
would that run somebody?
Yeah, I did want to touch on that because there are some problems with music therapy, the field in and of itself, and how one, there's so few of us. There's only 10,000 certified music therapists in the US, and that's not taking into account that not all of them are actively working, not all of them work with older adults. So very, very limited number for serving people with dementia. It can be tough to access music therapy, both geographically, like finding someone locally, but then also cost wise. So, when I was a traveling music therapist, many communities, and we're talking senior living communities that often have 100 residents, this is also a huge problem in the senior care space. They have super limited activity budgets. So a lot of times I would only be contracted with them to come once or twice a month. That's only 2 hours, 1 or 2 hours a month. And part of that is the cost, but part of it's their budget. So I would say presently the average music therapist in the US runs 150 to 200 an hour in a group setting.
Mhm.
So yeah, that can be very cost prohibitive. So those are two issues I wanted to address with my program is there's not enough music therapists serving people with dementia, and it can be very cost prohibitive. So we offer a high quality alternative to formal music therapy that's highly accessible and highly affordable. We're able, because of the model and nature of our program, we're able to keep it super low cost, and that gives them access to hours upon hours of video content.
Yeah, that's a solution, a valuable solution. And you don't have any travel costs for
Yes.
yourself, which is awesome. And they don't have any restrictions of what time they access your program. So that's really cool too. Yeah, I see that as a win-win.
Yes, I was just going to say I was trying to think of a solution that's a win-win-win all around. I was
Okay.
I was in my practice, I was getting to the point where I was getting a little burned out by the driving.
Mhm.
So I don't like what happened through COVID with my business, but it was a reprieve for me, and it allowed me to kind of reevaluate things and where I was and where I wanted to head in the future, and what I want to bring to the table as a music therapist, and kind of reinventing myself as a music therapist. And I'm a very non-traditional music therapist, but I'm still able to use my skills and experience to impact people and make a difference using music.
So what exactly did you mean by non-traditional music therapist?
So I'm not presently, other than a couple of clients I still see in person, but I'm
Okay.
not presently practicing formal music therapy that would involve live in-person service,
Yeah.
even though that can happen over Zoom as well, over some platform where you're interacting live in the moment. So music therapy is a very formal practice, and it involves assessment and treatment planning and evaluation, documentation, all of that, where we are actually working on goals and objectives. We're working towards improvement in certain areas. We assess the needs of the client and really create goals targeted to address those needs through music. So I'm not practicing in that formal sense, but with my program, I provide music engagement that can really make a difference.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
So without COVID, it sounds to me like you weren't sure where you were going to take your business or your service to folks. And so for you, COVID kind of provided the impetus to a new direction that is thriving.
Yes, it really launched me in a new direction. And prior to COVID, my business was doing great. It was growing. We were actually on track to double that year. I had a couple of music therapists working with me. Um, it was a huge hit. I was really sad to have all of that come to a halt, such a sudden halt, and
Mhm.
just not know. It was very disorienting and really not know what I was going to do next. And was I going to hold out until we could start things back up in person, or was I going to create something else in the meantime? And but this is the direction I ended up taking, and I am loving it. I'm loving the problem solving involved and creativity, and just I feel like I've been in business school the past 3 years. So I over the course of 4 years, I learned how to grow a business in person, in a specific geographic area. And then over the past 3.5 years, I've been learning how to grow a business online and really working on our outreach and our messaging so that we're saying things that really connect with people and make sense and click with them so that they can get to a point where it's like, oh yeah, maybe we should give this program a try and see what it can do for us. So that's been a really great learning process, both personally, professionally, all around.
It is hard to learn how to do the online world, but it
Yeah.
is so rewarding. And I love the word click. You said to see what clicks for folks. And I just love that. Like it just, again, it sent a visual to me. It's like the light bulb goes on for these folks um, and you as well. Like, how does this work best to serve these clients, these future clients? And what makes them want to sign up? And I love that click.
Wow.
Not just clicking a mouse, but click the light bulb.
The light bulb moment, yes.
Yeah. So, Alexis, tell me a little bit about the name of your company. How did that come about?
Oh, well, I love the name of my company. I think it fits super well. Initially, I chose it because of my location where I live in, well, just a little south of Portland, but Portland is known as the city of bridges, or Bridgetown is another nickname. We have a river that runs through the city and then all these bridges that connect both sides. So Bridgetown, Bridge City, the city of bridges.
Bridgetown Music Therapy is the
Yes,
name of your business.
it made sense to call it something that fit locally because that was my business. I was serving the Portland metro area, covering a certain mile
All
radius.
those bridges every day.
Yes, I was crossing bridges every day.
Aw.
Um, but as I moved online, I thought about changing the name, but then I have always loved the picture, the idea that music is like a bridge. It acts as a bridge, providing support, connection in a myriad of ways. And so that's the idea behind the name. And I love it because it still works. Um, it still works. And it's to me, it's such a beautiful picture of what music represents.
Yeah. Music is like a bridge. Love that too. And having a name that you really, well, I would hate to think that you chose a name that you didn't like, but having a name that really reflects something within you about your business, I think that's so important. And explaining it the way you did, it gives it a real wholesome meaning. And I thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Thank you
So,
for asking.
oh, anytime, I'll ask lots of questions. um, is there a personal tidbit you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yes. My go-to piece of encouragement, tidbit, whatever you want to call it, is always that music is like a vitamin. And so we talked about music being like a bridge, but music is also like a vitamin. I'm a natural approach health nut. I love supplements and anything that can support my body and help it. Um, so music is like a vitamin, and a little bit goes a long way to help the body, soul, mind, spirit, all of that. I always encourage people to use a little bit of music each day, even if it's just a few minutes. Like, give yourself that boost.
Hmm. A very good analogy as well. Very cool. So, how can folks reach you?
Well, they can reach me through all the main avenues. We've got our website, Bridgetown MT, M for music, T for therapy, bridgetownmt.com. My email is alexis@bridgetownmt.com. We're on the social platforms of LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us as Bridgetown Music Therapy. We're on YouTube, and I think that's it.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, actually, we have a mailing list, and that's a great way to get in touch with us, see what we're up to. We send out a main newsletter once a month at the beginning of each month called our monthly musical moment. And it's not salesy, it's filled with a bunch of fun info. It has our monthly live session info, it has a Spotify playlist, it has a song of the month that we highlight, a song spotlight, we call it, and several other things, resources, our monthly blog article. So I encourage people to join our mailing list.
And they can do that just through your website?
Yep,
Okay.
we've got our contact info on our website, a contact us tab.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad I asked if there was one more thing.
Yeah, no worries. And actually, I know I mentioned this briefly, but I also encourage and invite anyone to join our free monthly live music session. It's a lot of fun. It's open to anyone. We get groups and individuals all over the world. We've have an international reach now, and we just have a blast hanging out together for an hour and doing music. We have a different theme each month, and it's really a lot of fun.
And what's the date of this in September?
September, that would be the third Thursday of the month, and that is September 19th.
September 19th is the live session, and I might just want to join that as well. I want to see Alexis in action,
Yeah, I would be honored if you joined us.
but I can keep my mute button on, right?
Yes, we always we encourage people to participate at whatever level they're comfortable with, and we encourage singing, but unfortunately with Zoom, the audio is limited. So we do keep everyone on mute because often a lot of background noise that can be really distracting and throw things off. So everyone's on mute. It's optional to have your video on. We do about 10 songs. We do a little bit of movement halfway through, some stretching and rhythm. And then we just dive into our theme. So we've been going through the decades, and then sometimes we have a theme based on the time of year, like December is usually the holidays, but all kinds of fun themes.
Perfect. Yeah, I hope I can join on that day. I'll mark it in my calendar because I think that would be a lot of fun. And what time is it?
We have 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. And then because we have people from all over, we kind of break down the time zones and it ends up being different times, but we're obviously in the same zone. So yeah, we offer the time zones for the US, the continental US, and I think that's the same for Canada. But then for everything else, we just do the UTC, the universal time, so they do have to calculate for themselves. But we list out about five time zones.
I think you'll get lots of participants. So you did share with me a little video snippet of a client, a caregiver interacting with, I don't know, it was her loved one. But is that pretty typical of the type of work you do and the target audience for your sessions?
Yes, absolutely. We serve, so that particular clip is on YouTube. Anyone can see it. And it was a daughter and her mother she was caring for who had advanced Alzheimer's. And I actually got to work with them as a duo in person for 2 or 3 years. And then COVID happened. And then we did some of the online things. And then they transitioned to using our program. And I was so grateful she sent that video because it really shows how our program can be utilized in home. So we serve both individuals living at home. Our program name for that type of setting is Singing at Home. And then we serve groups and community type settings like memory care communities, adult day programs and that type of setting, and that's called Music with Alexis. But the mother and daughter really show. She was like in the kitchen stirring a pot and had our program on a laptop, and her mom was engaging with it, and she was pausing to get down to her level and sing with her and just engage. They were really connecting through the music, and it's just such a beautiful example of what music can do.
It's all about connection.
It sure is.
Yeah. Yeah. And making those moments more meaningful. And I think that's a summary of a music therapist. Just how you bring something really valuable back to the forefront. And I see that and I love that. I think it's so valuable. So thank you for sharing that all today and for sharing a glimpse into what you do, what you provide for caregivers and for those they are caring for, those living with dementia. So thanks, Alexis. This has been wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Allison. And it's my pleasure. My calling, one of my callings is to make a difference using music and really set the stage for those meaningful musical moments.
So thank you so much for joining me today, Alexis. This has been a wonderful time with you.
Oh, thank you, Allison. Likewise.
Yeah, this was fun.
And thank you for all you do to reach caregivers and serve them by providing resources and help.
Well, thank you for that. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Isn't it encouraging to hear that we're all musical in some way? For Alexis, her journey in music has not just been a personal pursuit, but a therapeutic calling. As a board-certified music therapist, Alexis creates dementia-friendly sessions, ensuring that both caregivers and their loved ones experience connection and support through the uplifting power of music. And these sessions are accessible through any web-enabled device. If, like me, you want to check out one of her live music sessions over Zoom, go to bridgetownmt.com to register. They are held on the third Thursday of each month. There are also sample sessions available on her website. And remember, using a little music can give you a boost, just like taking a daily vitamin. If you're in the midst of your own caregiving journey and need some supports, I invite you to tap into alongsidecaregiverconsulting.ca or Alongside Caregiver Consulting's Facebook page or Instagram account. To join Alexis for one of her sessions or to learn more about her services, check out bridgetownmt.com. If you'd like to share your story as a guest on the Island Treasures podcast, please contact me by email, either through my website or at alongsidecaregiverconsulting@shaw.ca. Thank you for tuning in today, and to Alexis Baker, thank you for sharing how uplifting it can be to incorporate meaningful musical moments into our lives. If you don't want to miss future episodes, be sure to subscribe to the Island Treasures podcasts. See you next episode.